Traveling through the world of cultivation, I found myself carrying my senior sister's snow cicada silk stockings in my arms. Damn it, my lifelong innocence has been ruined like this. Don't do this kind of thing. Chu Ming exclaimed that he was wrongly accused, but when the cheat suddenly arrived, he, who was supposed to be excited, found that the simulation system seemed somewhat inappropriate. You were born in the far north of the northern regions and were collected by hunters to weave into snow cicada luo socks. After multiple rounds of transportation, you were bought by an mushi and unfortunately died in a battle with Chu Ming. Simulation completed. You can choose from the following options. 1. Item acquisition entry. 2. Obtain the qualifications and talents of the item owner. 3. Obtain the attributes and cultivation of the item owner. 4. Exploring a part of the life experience of the object owner. Note: choosing items 2, 3, or 4 will damage the item. The higher the intimacy between the item and the owner, the richer the reward obtained. This intimacy should mean that, right? As the fresh breeze blew, Chu Ming narrowed his eyes and suddenly made up his mind as he looked at the white-clad senior sister standing at the top of the cliff. Senior sister, please help me practice. Keywords of the novel. Senior sister, please help me practice without pop-ups. Senior sister, please help me practice. Download the complete TXT collection. Senior sister, please help me practice. Read the latest chapter. Chapter 1. The Life of Snow Cicada Luo Socks. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 1. The Life of Snow Cicada Luo Socks. In the dim alchemy room, Chu Ming slowly opened his heavy eyelids, and his scattered and confused pupils gradually focused on the decaying wooden beam in front of him. It hurts so much. Rubbing his painfully furrowed brow, he slowly stood up, stunned by the unfamiliar sight before him. Didn't I just rest at home after socializing? Where is this? As consciousness gradually regained consciousness from confusion, strange fragments of memory began to flash through my mind one by one. Chu Ming, a young alchemist from the outer sect of the Tianyan sect in the northern regions. I was punished in the alchemy room for stealing my senior sister and Mushi's snow cicada silk stockings and helping her refine the 4th grade pill, Ice Heart pill. When will it be successfully refined and when can I leave? Isn't it a lucid dream? Standing up and patting the grass, wood, and ash on his cloth clothes, Chu Ming remained silent for a long time as he looked at the dilapidated alchemy furnace in front of him. Close your eyes, open them, the scene remains unchanged. Pinch your thighs hard, the scene still hasn't changed. Surprisingly, I have truly traveled through time. After a brief moment of surprise, Chu Ming couldn't help feeling speechless. You say time travel is time travel, you must travel to a pervert. Isn't this ruining my reputation? No, the original owner had no memory of stealing senior sister's stockings in his mind, and coupled with his usual humility and kindness, how could he have done such a thing? There must be some misunderstanding here. Chu Ming dug out his pocket to find a way to deal with the current predicament, but the delicate texture emanating from his fingertips made him look slightly stunned. Take out a pair of high-quality white silk that has been kneaded into a ball and quietly lies in the palm of your hand. Did the original owner really steal senior sister's stockings? All right, now, the misunderstanding has been resolved and there is no way to argue. Chu Ming let out a long sigh, stared at by sea for a long time, and then instinctively took a light sniff at the tip of his nose. Well, a faint virgin fragrance. The one who can handle this kind of white silk jumpsuit must be a very beautiful girl. No one is perfect, it seems like I have some understanding of the original owner's behavior. Now is not the time to empathize with others, is it? Chu Ming regained his senses and paced back and forth in front of the stove, feeling a bit restless. At present, the fact has become a foregone conclusion. Since we have stolen stockings, we cannot refine the Ice Heart pill without the alchemy room. But I am just a 3rd-grade alchemist who has recently broken through. Take my head to refine 4th grade pills. Unless cheating is enabled. Just as Chu Ming was murmuring to himself, a light blue light curtain suddenly appeared in front of him. Simulation system dedicated to serving the host. Do you choose to simulate snow cicada luo socks? Do you really have it? Chu Ming excitedly clenched the white silk in his hand. The online author is not deceiving me. Sure enough, once you've crossed over, there's a system. However, simulation should refer to something similar to a life simulator, which can also be simulated. With a hint of doubt, Chu Ming tentatively murmured. Yes. In an instant, a large amount of information suddenly appeared on the panel in front of me. You were born in the mouth of a snow cicada, in the far north of the northern regions. After being collected by hunters, you were handed over to women to weave snow cicada stockings, which have strong stretchability and tear resistance, as well as the effect of calming desire. After a series of transportation twists and turns, you arrived at Angwa Market and met in Mushi. After being bought and worn on her legs, you were deeply infatuated with her round and tight long legs. During this period, you met 2 brothers, suspender stockings, and long tube stockings, and together they bowed their heads, vowing to fight for the protection of their delicate skin for a lifetime. A few months later, and Mushi dressed in you and passed the selection of the Tianyan sect, attracting the attention of a large number of external disciples, including the alchemist Chu Ming. The 2 fell in love at first sight, and you can only watch your master being taken away by that handsome young man, but powerless. Until one night, they walked into the bamboo forest and you tore apart, your Tao heart was damaged and disappeared. What? Looking at the panel in front of him, Chu Ming couldn't help but be a bit dumbfounded. For a moment, he didn't know where to start roast. Is your system toxic? Leaving aside this somewhat surreal and strange perspective, how can I still be a bullhead myself? Simulation completed, you can choose from the following options. 1. Item acquisition entry. 2. Obtain the qualifications and talents of the item owner, converted into an entry level. White, green, blue, orange, red, gold. 3. Obtain the attributes and cultivation of the item owner. 4. Exploring a part of the life experience of the object owner. Note: choosing items 2, 3, or 4 will damage the item. The higher the intimacy between the item and the owner, the richer the reward obtained. The higher the intimacy, the better the reward. Chu Ming's expression was slightly stunned, and he suddenly came to a conclusion in his heart. This system wants him to be a pervert. Items with high intimacy can be guessed by other heads. It actually encourages me to use these things for cultivation. I, Chu Ming, always do things openly and honestly. Even if I am beaten to death in this chaotic world, I will never be tempted by this system. Chu Ming's expression was unusually firm, and after thinking for a moment, he chose the second reward. Compared to attributes, cultivation, and life experiences, qualifications are more attractive to him. After all, the other party is in Mushi. Although this name sounds strange, she is actually the most talented disciple recruited by Tianyan sect in the past century. Born with ice spirit, wood spirit, and twin divine spirits, he is also arrogant in sword cultivation. Even though I am only a disciple from an outside sect now, it is still a matter of time before I become a disciple of the inner sect. This kind of arrogant person, just acquiring one of her talents, can turn salted fish's self around. The simulation item, Snow Cicada Luo Socks, has an intimacy of 80 with Mushi, and the second reward is, Wood Spirit, Blue. Improve alchemy skills, affinity for wood elements, and physical and spiritual abilities, natural charming body, Blue. Enhance charm, and cultivation can be improved through the harmony of yin and yang. Wait. Did something strange sneak into the reward? Born with a charming physique. Where did this thing come from? As the white thread in his hand slowly dissipated, Chu Ming's pupils suddenly shrank as if he had thought of something. Just now during the simulation, it seemed to have been mentioned that Mushi has a naturally charming physique. Surprisingly, he inherited it himself. I'm a man who wants this thing to have a hammer. But then again, isn't this a physique that only fox demons have? How could she have it? Is she not human? No, no, no. After pondering for a moment, Chu Ming immediately denied his conjecture. Fox demons, which practice by sucking on human male-yang elements, cannot be undetected by the sect leader when participating in disciple selection. Moreover, Anmushi has a usually cold temperament and has hardly ever seen any intimate interactions with men, which is exactly the opposite of the seductive posture of the fox demon's eyes. However, she is not naturally charming, and she will not receive this reward herself. Things suddenly became interesting. Chu Ming chuckled a few times, and the corner of his mouth couldn't help but slightly lift. I was originally thinking about how to make Anmushi let me leave this ghost place, but I didn't expect the leverage of the blackmail to come to my door. P.S. The new book set sail. I feel a little uneasy because the content of this book is prone to accidents. Therefore, I implore all readers not to keep the book and to keep up with the latest chapters in a timely manner after updates. Other authors request to keep reading for the sake of recommendations. I request to keep reading for the sake of protecting the book's life. If you keep reading low, you will definitely be banned, and even if you keep reading, you're not afraid to see the edited version. It's a win-win situation. If the reader feels that the sentence is not coherent, then it has been deleted. Remember to tell me then. Thank you. Finally, I would like to ask for a collection, investment, monthly ticket, recommendation ticket, and reward. The main goal is to have a thick skin. Thank you to all readers. End of this chapter. Chapter 2. Me, Chu Ming, male, born pretty. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 2. Me, Chu Ming, male, born pretty. No wonder you asked me to help refine the ice heart pill. Chu Ming rummaged through the alchemy furnace and found a light blue pill stained with black spots. He held it in front of his eyes and carefully examined it. Obviously, this ice heart pill is a semi-finished product. It has the effect of solidifying the root and dispelling distractions, and is one of the common pills in closed cultivation caves. It has excellent sales in the immortal realm. It is estimated that Anmuxi intends to use it to suppress her naturally charming body. Chu Ming glanced at the miscellaneous items on the wooden table next to him and found that the materials used to make ice heart pills had been exhausted. What should we do? Playing with the pill in his hand, the familiar light blue screen in front of him suddenly reappeared. Do you want to simulate ice heart pill, 1 pattern, ... Can Dan Yao also simulate it? Chu Ming widened his eyes in surprise and then chose yes. You were born in the alchemy furnace of Chu Ming, a young alchemist, and were purchased by Anmushi to suppress your naturally charming body. You know that your life is very short, so even if you were gently bitten open by Na Bei's teeth, you didn't complain too much and turned into spiritual power flowing into Anmushi's limbs and bones, and the simulation ended. Note. As Ice Heart Pill, 1 pattern, is your personal item, only reward 1 can be selected. The current Ice Heart Pill, 1 pattern, can add an entry, choose any one, fragrant, white. Enhancing the deliciousness of pills, perfect, blue. Can transform a damaged pill into 3 perfect lines. Is it still necessary to choose? Without much hesitation, Chu Ming added perfection to the Ice Heart Pill, and then a burst of light flickered. The black spots inside slowly dissipated, making it crystal clear as a whole, and even 3 lines of alchemy appeared faintly on the surface. Amazing! Feeling the chill emanating from his palm, Chu Ming suddenly didn't dislike this somewhat abnormal simulation system as much. At least, the feature of optimizing items around you by adding entries is quite good. Now we have the capital to negotiate with Anmushi. After Chu Ming carefully put away the Ice Heart Pill, a cold voice suddenly came from outside the door. Chu Ming, have you finished refining the Ice Heart Pill? Yo-ho! Speak of Chow Chow and he will arrive. Pushing the door open, there entered a beautiful girl wearing a simple and elegant white dress, carrying food in her hand. Her face was cold, with delicate and beautiful features. 3,000 strands of green hair were casually draped over her shoulders, with mischievous curls at the ends of her hair. The ribbons were simply tied around her willow waist, perfectly revealing her slender and curvaceous figure. Of course, the most eye-catching thing is still the slender legs wrapped in semi-transparent white silk in a hazy gauze skirt hem. Tight with a hint of softness, plump and round. At the moment the girl entered the door, Chu Ming's gaze was deeply attracted by it, and his heart suddenly understood why the original owner was so infatuated with it. First of all, I declare that I am not a pervert. Secondly, I really want to be caught in my face by these legs. Master said you didn't open the valley, so he asked me to bring some food. And Mushi's words brought Chu Ming back to her senses. She placed the food on the table with an unusually cold expression. Master, you have a decent talent for alchemy and have committed your first offense due to being obsessed with lust, so please don't worry too much about it. But after all, you stole my intimate clothes first, and I can never spare you for that. Is that so? Chu Ming smiled and held the back of his head, his expression playful. Before I stole the stockings, it must have been your senior sister who invited me to your room, right? I remember as soon as I entered the door, I felt extremely hot all over. Why is this? Humph, isn't it normal to be guilty of being a thief? And Mushi snorted lightly and glanced slightly, but this small detail was completely noticed by Chu Ming. There is indeed something suspicious. What happened at that time, senior sister? You should have a clearer understanding than me. Chu Ming slowly approached Mushi, his gaze burning as he stared at her beautiful face, half smiling. Senior sister, you must be naturally charming, right? Mushi widened her eyes in terror and instinctively asked. How do you know? Before she could finish speaking, she noticed a slight slip of tongue and quickly covered her mouth with both hands, blinking her eyes frequently. Her full chest undulated several times before she spoke coldly. What nonsense are you talking about? Being naturally charming is a fox demon's constitution. As a human, how could I possibly have it? Ha! Chu Ming was amused to the point of laughing out loud. At that time, my situation was very in line with the impact that natural physical outbursts can have on people around me. My body was hot and my consciousness was blurred. In addition, senior sister, you want the ice heart pill, isn't it, just to suppress it? So, senior sister, you deliberately stuffed stockings into me to cover up this matter and transfer the conflict, while also getting a free ice heart pill. Am I right? Junior brother Chu, if you dare to talk nonsense again, I will report it to master. After being stunned for a moment, Mushi's willow eyebrows slightly raised and she said fiercely, but this fierce and cunning appearance did not intimidate Chu Ming at all. His eyes were slightly cold, and he smiled calmly and confidently. Sister Mushi, if I were to say that I have a way to temporarily suppress my naturally charming body, or even solve it, what would you do? How could it be? Before Mushi could finish speaking, she saw Chu Ming slowly pulling out an ice heart pill, which surprised her expression. You actually refined it. It's just a 4th grade alchemist, isn't there anything unusual about it? What? Seeing Chu Ming's indifferent appearance, Mushi's calm heart suddenly rippled with layers of ripples. The 4th grade alchemist is indeed nothing, but a 16-year-old 4th grade alchemist has something to offer. This kind of alchemy talent, even if placed in the Tianyan inner sect, can be called outstanding talent. I just wanted to use this method as punishment, but unfortunately, it triggered the potential of my junior brother. After receiving the ice heart pill handed by Chu Ming and confirming its exceptionally perfect quality, Mushi lightly pursed her red lips and suddenly became conflicted in her heart. In the past few days, as I am approaching a breakthrough, the frequency of naturally beautiful body bursts has increased, and I need a large amount of ice heart pills to suppress it. And as mentioned earlier, a Dan master with such talent may really have a way to solve the problem of naturally charming body in an instant. The dimly lit room fell into silence. Chu Ming was not in a hurry either, patiently waiting for Anmushi's response with a smile on his face. He knew that the bait he had released was enough to catch this mermaid. Sure enough, after a few breaths, Anmushi tightly grasped the ice heart pill with a suspicious expression on her face. Do you really have a solution to being naturally attractive? Of course, Chu Ming took a step forward and suddenly grabbed Anmushi's right hand. This unexpected move really scared her and made her tremble, subconsciously wanting to break free. What's going on here? Do you want to make that kind of request as an exchange for solving innate physical attractiveness? No way. I can never compromise on my own. Anmushi glared fiercely at Chu Ming, but a familiar warm breath suddenly surged into her palms, causing her to blink her eyes and express surprise. This is... Yes, senior sister, you don't feel wrong. Chu Ming released his right hand and a helpless bitter smile appeared on his face. I am also naturally charming. Anmushi took a cold breath and looked up and down at the handsome young man in front of her. I didn't hear you wrong, did he say he was naturally charming? Will this constitution exist in males? But the familiar spiritual power just now is not fake, it is indeed something that is naturally possessed by a charming body. Anmushi felt that his worldview had collapsed. He was about to inquire about the specific situation, but was suddenly interrupted by Chu Ming. So senior sister, I'm helping you solve the problem of being naturally charming just to help myself. You can rest assured about this. But as an exchange, I hope you can help me cultivate, senior sister. Practice. Watching Anmushi blink his eyes in confusion, Chu Ming shifted his gaze downwards and stared at her straight long legs as he spoke softly. I hope you can give me the stockings on your legs, senior sister. End of this chapter. Chapter 3. Senior sister, I want your leggings. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 3. Senior sister, I want your leggings. Anmushi blinked her beautiful eyes foolishly for 2 seconds before realizing it. Her face suddenly turned red and she gritted her teeth in embarrassment and anger. Chu Ming. Are you a pervert? I feel like I'm. Chu Ming nodded solemnly. Since I have decided to use a simulation system for cultivation, it is inevitable to be treated as a pervert. Since that's the case, it's better to catch a sheep and be considered a pervert by one person than a group of people. Moreover, I still have control over her, and I dare not spread rumors everywhere even if I let her go. If it's not a big deal, both sides will be caught dead and the net will be broken. No way. Anmushi took a deep breath to calm her restless mood, and then coldly rebuked her. I can pass on your martial arts and teach you swordsmanship in my spare time, but it's absolutely impossible to give you a pair of stockings. You must die of this heart. Is that so? Chu Ming pretended to look regretful and let out a long sigh. Since that's the case, I'll have to ask my master how to suppress my naturally charming body. Do you mind, senior sister? No way. Anmushi immediately said anxiously, clenching her fists tightly, as if endless anger was burning in her eyes. It is obvious that Chu Ming is using her naturally charming body as a threat, but she still has no solution. The thought of someone discovering her secret that had been hidden for many years made Anmushi feel a pang of grievance in her heart. Didn't you say you wanted to cultivate? I can't teach you swordsmanship yet. No way, Chu Ming shook his head reluctantly. I want the stockings you're wearing, senior sister. How could this person be so abnormal? Anmushi was so angry that she clenched her fists tightly, and under the influence of her naturally charming body, her thoughts became unusually chaotic. Is he looking at Chu Ming's rather enduring green face? Anmushi's heart seemed to skip a beat. Finally, after careful consideration, her red lips parted slightly and she whispered over her slightly shy eyes. Then you can't tell anyone about my natural charm. Of course, Chu Ming's mouth curved slightly upwards, with a cheerful smile. Senior sister, can't you still trust my character? Character. Humph. What do you want with the stockings I've worn? I don't know. He had a handsome and elegant appearance as a young master, and thought he was some kind of gentleman, but unexpectedly, he turned out to be a pervert in private. After muttering a few words in a low voice, Anmushi glared at Chu Ming and scolded him coldly. Turn around. Don't peek. Otherwise, I'll report it to the master. Okay, Chu Ming obediently turned around, and when the rustling sound of undressing reached his ears, he couldn't help but feel a wave of restlessness in his heart. Anmushi carefully observed the surroundings, then reached into the hem of her skirt with both hands, pinching the edge of the stockings that had pulled out excess fat from her thighs and slowly removing them, exposing her slender bare legs, which were white and tender with a hint of crimson, to the air. Okay, folding the stockings and handing them out, Anmushi dared not look directly into Chu Ming's eyes, and her cheeks were burning hot. In front of my junior brother, I took off my stockings and even gave them to him. Anmushi, you really have no shame. Feeling a hint of warm white silk in his hand, Chu Ming suddenly felt a slight surge of dryness in his heart. You can go back to your own room tonight. Feeling a bit uncomfortable with the sudden nudity, Anmushi had to grab her skirt and quickly flee the alchemy room, warning again before leaving. Chu Ming, if you dare to tell me about tonight's incident, I won't let you go in this lifetime. In this lifetime. That's a good relationship. Watching the hastily fleeing figure, Chu Ming smiled playfully and immediately rubbed his right hand, carefully feeling the delicate texture of white silk. In an instant, the light blue screen reappeared. Do you want to simulate the snow cicada luo socks? Yes, Chu Ming let out a low moan, and his heart suddenly became lively. I don't know what story will happen in this simulation. As soon as you were born, you, who were naive, were bought by Chu Ming in the market and given to his Taoist couple Anmushi as a gift, recognizing her as the master. As you look at the sweet faces of the two, a sense of sadness suddenly arises in your heart as you say, I'm just an outsider. Perhaps understanding your feelings, the host put on you with a shy face that night and played games with Chu Ming. Together you feel very happy, and for a moment, it gives you a strong sense of participation. But then, you were taken off by the owner and thrown into the clothes basket. You don't have a father, so it's difficult to empathize, but you know the owner must be very upset at this moment. You want to comfort your master, but you are just a pair of stockings. Besides, she has been tightly embraced by Chu Ming and constantly comforted. That night, your companion added a bedsheet, but the next day you were discarded by the owner with a flushed face, and the simulation ended. Chu Ming was a bit dumbfounded, and suddenly his heart was aroused by the information in front of him, which came from a naturally charming body. This system hasn't been trained from anywhere, has it? It's too exciting. But every time this strange perspective feels a bit awkward, even though the male protagonist is all myself. Chu Ming quickly grabbed his pockets with both hands, pondered for a moment, and then chose attributes and cultivation rewards. The simulation item, Snow Cicada Luo Socks, has an intimacy of 85 with Anmushi, and the third reward is Cultivation Improvement. Triple Chi Refining, Complete, 99%. Triple Chi Refining, Initial, 0%, Attribute Enhancement. Divine Spirit +5, in an instant, he filled Chu Ming's limbs with the warmth and vitality of life, making him moan comfortably. Suddenly, he felt a trance in the depths of the spiritual sea, and the world before him seemed to become much clearer. Did your cultivation directly increase by 1 level? Clenching his fists and feeling the surge of spiritual power in his body, Chu Ming's expression became extremely excited. Not only did his cultivation increase, but even his alchemy skills broke through to the 4th level due to the enhancement of his divine spirit, officially entering the realm of a 4th-grade alchemist. If only there were a panel to help me summarize it. After Chu Ming whispered a sentence, the light blue screen in front of him suddenly turned deep red. Name: Chu Ming, Cultivation. For elements of Qi refining, practice. None, spell. Alchemy, 4th level, Ling General Medium Grade Wood Ling Gen, entries. Wood Spirit, blue, born beautiful body, blue, attribute. Divine Spirit +5, is there really a personal panel? Chu Ming was amazed in his heart. A pair of stockings can elevate oneself to a higher level, and even with the bonus of the wood spirit, even the spirit root has been elevated from a low level to a medium level. Since that's the case, why are you still working hard to cultivate in the future? Just go and collect the wool from senior sister. This is too bug, there will definitely be limitations. Perhaps the cultivation reward you receive is equivalent to the strength of the item owner. Chu Ming held his chin in contemplation. It is very likely that the greater the difference in strength with the opponent, the better the reward. If the gap narrows, the reward may become worse. Since that's the case, at this moment, Chu Ming's mind suddenly flashed with the charming face of his master, as well as the majestic chest that was about to emerge. End of this chapter. 4. Chapter 4. An Irreparable Incident. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 4. An Irreparable Incident, Great Rebellion and Injustice. After a while, Chu Ming regained his senses and quickly shook his head to drive the bold idea out of his mind. Are you crazy? Do you still want to use your master's personal clothing for cultivation? You are not unaware of that seductive woman's personality. If the innate charm appears on someone in Tianyan sect, then it must be her. As the saying goes, to cultivate immortality, one must be down to earth and solidify the foundation step by step, so for now, having the senior sister as a sheep is enough. As for the other sheep, let's wait until this one's fur is gone. Chu Ming stretched lazily, and just as he was about to leave after packing up his alchemy tools, he suddenly felt a pang of hunger and his stomach rumbled. Immediately, he glanced slightly, his gaze fixed on the fragrant hot dishes on the table. Perhaps afraid of getting cold, Anmushi still used a stone plate containing fire-type spiritual power. Is it because of guilt that I did this? Chu Ming chuckled a few times, and his impression of Anmushi warmed up a lot. Then he picked up his bowls and chopsticks and enjoyed a delicious meal before leaving the alchemy room. Amidst the misty mountains, he was walking along a path in the woods, intending to return to his room to rest when a figure suddenly walked towards him not far away. No, perhaps using floating would be more appropriate. In the eerie and desolate deep mountains and forests, these terrifying scenes really startled Chu Ming. The other party was wearing 100 butterflies' red robe, with a fairy-like demeanor and a phoenix-like demeanor that seemed unrelated to her. However, she was the only elder from the outer gate of the Tianyan sect who had broken through to the realm of transforming gods, and the first one on the floating jade peak. Dancing drunk and raging. Similarly, he is also the master of Anmushi and Chu Ming. Master. Why are you here? After seeing the person's shadow clearly, Chu Ming couldn't help feeling nervous and his smile stiffened, with a feeling of returning to his student days to see the teacher with a reserved expression. I am the only one living on the back mountain of Fuyu Peak. Why did Master appear here? Do you mean she? Just as Chu Ming was daydreaming, a drunken dance slowly drifted in, his eyes flowing, and his smile particularly charming. Ming'er, why did you come back? Mushi, she's willing to let you go. Master, I have helped senior sister refine the ice heart pill. The misunderstanding with her has been resolved. Oh. A hint of surprise flashed in Wu Zui's eyes. Did you break through to the 4th level alchemist? Chu Ming bowed respectfully with an arched hand. Recently, my disciples have had an epiphany, so. However, as soon as he finished speaking, he felt a fragrant aroma rush through his nose, and the next second he threw himself into a warm embrace. Ming'er, you're really amazing. Wu Zui Rao hugged Chu Ming tightly, constantly stroking his soft black hair with her jade hands, and smiled contentedly. I truly deserve to be my apprentice who dances drunkenly. Chu Ming, who was suddenly attacked, was somewhat at a loss and waved his arms wildly in the air. However, due to the huge difference in strength between the two, no matter how hard he struggled, it was of no use. Chu Ming gasped for breath due to difficulty breathing, greedily absorbing the fragrance from his nose. Although happiness comes too suddenly, it will suffocate me if it continues like this. Just as Chu Ming was feeling a bit intoxicated, Wu Rao let go of him, blinking her beautiful eyes and covering her mouth with a smirk. Go back and rest well. Remember to come find me tomorrow morning. Immediately, a burst of red mist filled the air, and in the blink of an eye, the drunken dance disappeared, leaving only Chu Ming with a dull face standing in place at a loss. My master's personality is really strange. Chu Ming couldn't help but smile wryly. After all this fuss, he also forgot about his confusion about his master coming here and covered his mouth to say hello. So sleepy, good risk. Watching Chu Ming's back leave, the once disappeared dance drunkenness suddenly reappeared, with the corners of his mouth raised. Shouldn't it have been discovered, right? Has my room been burglarized? Returning to the wing room and looking at his messy bed, Chu Ming suddenly felt a bit dumbfounded. Didn't you come back these days? The roof is leaking rain. Looking up at the intact wooden beam, Chu Ming's head was full of question marks, but under the invasion of drowsiness, he didn't think much about it. After changing into a new set of sheets, he flipped over and went to bed. For neurotic individuals, even if they travel through the perilous world of immortals and knights, they can still sleep soundly. And Chu Ming is such a person. He also wanted to be vigilant, but the key was that his body, which had just passed through, had been refining pills all night for days and nights, and he was really tired. In addition, the influx of a large amount of unfamiliar memories causes a burst of swelling and pain in the brain, and not sleeping is likely to lead to sudden death for the second time. However, just as Chu Ming was in a state of half dreaming and half awakening, a magma-like heat suddenly surged up inside his body. It's so hot. Subconsciously tearing at his clothes, Chu Ming moaned softly, his inner restlessness stirring his whole body like flames. Chu Ming glanced down and immediately seemed to understand something, his pupils suddenly contracting. Shouldn't it be a natural fit? Shua. I thought it could be avoided, but surprisingly, this system has also inherited the side effects of qualifications. This system is harming me. Chu Ming curled up at the corner of the bed, gritting his teeth and enduring physical and mental agony. Finally, he sighed helplessly and found some waste rice paper from the nearby desk. Because the way for cultivators to eliminate impurities from their bodies is through meditation and circulation, there is no need to use the toilet, and therefore there is no so-called toilet paper. I never expected to spend the first night of my journey like this. Chu Ming looked out the window at the stars in the night sky, his mood extremely complicated. That night, things suddenly became uncontrollable. End of this chapter. Chapter 5. Ming'er, come up and help me massage as a teacher. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 5. Ming'er, come up and give me a massage as my teacher. Ming'er, didn't you have to rest early? The next day the morning light is faint, and several cranes skim through the clouds and mist Pooh Peak, the main hall at the top of the mountain. Looking at Chu Ming with a tired expression and swollen eye bags in front of him, Wu Rao slowly drifted closer with some heartache, pretending to be about to hold him. You don't have to work so hard to cultivate, thinking that your master's strength can still protect you for a lifetime. Mushi will come soon. I need to give her a good warning. She just stole a pair of stockings. Why go online? If you want to use it as a teacher, there are many styles here for you to choose from. Chu Ming's eyes suddenly lit up as he stole a glance at the seductive and slender bare legs of the dance, and his thoughts became lively. Although not as stunning as in Mushi, it is still enough to attract everyone's saliva. If you put on black silk, it would be even more amazing. If we could simulate using our master's stockings, we estimate that our cultivation could be greatly improved. No matter how difficult it is to obtain qualifications, it is difficult to explain the reason for the surge in strength. After careful consideration, Chu Ming temporarily decided not to take such a big step. Since Master has said so, there will definitely be opportunities in the future, so there is no need to rush for a moment. Just crossed over, first familiarize yourself with the surrounding environment, face the suspicion of being taken away by others. Chu Ming bowed in fear and reverence. Master Xie's favor, the disciples are still sufficient for the time being. Enough. Dancing drunkenly, covering her mouth and laughing profusely, her soft face swayed, and her eyes seemed to have a myriad of charm. Look at your dark circles, I'm afraid you didn't do something bad last night. Don't hurt the source. Master misunderstood. The disciple was just a bit excited and couldn't sleep because he had broken through the 4th level elixir. Chu Ming's cheeks turned slightly red, and he quickly found a reason to deceive him. He looked up at Wu Zui Rao and changed the topic. I see that, Master, you also have dark circles under your eyes. Is it because of something bothering you? Ming'er, you have broken through the 4th level Dan Master, and even the Master is relieved that he can't sleep. Dancing drunkenly and with a guilty heart, she averted her gaze and smiled slightly awkwardly. The master and apprentice each harbored evil thoughts, and their thoughts were chaotic. The white jade hall suddenly fell into silence. Fortunately, Master did not inquire in detail. Chu Ming breathed a sigh of relief in his heart. However, I still underestimated the terrifying level of natural physical outbursts. Thinking of last night's incident, Chu Ming felt a surge of fear all over his body. In the past, he had a very brilliant record in his youth. However, last night, under the influence of natural beauty, it was like eating xianmai and couldn't stop at all. In the end, both physically and mentally exhausted, they fell into a deep sleep to avoid the fate of emaciated adults. If the side effects of this constitution are not solved, there will be endless troubles in the future. Feeling his weak legs and throbbing lower back, Chu Ming pondered for a moment before speaking in a deep voice. Master, I have something to ask for. Could you please let me enter the external library to read it? What, there's something you want to know? Wu Zui Rao returned to the side of the jade platform and lay down, holding her fragrant cheeks in her hand, perfectly embodying her delicate and graceful figure, especially the suddenly bulging hips and sunken water snake waist, which made people daydream. However, Chu Ming's eyes were clear and devoid of any desire. The disciple has already surpassed the 4th grade elixir master, so he wants to find some formulas for 4th grade elixirs and learn some divine skills to defend himself. Practice is quite hard, isn't it? Dancing drunkenly, her eyes flickered and she smiled lightly. However, Mu Shi has used up all the slots for our Fufeng to enter the library this month. If you want to re-enter, you may have to go to the affairs hall to collect affairs and exchange contributions, otherwise you will have to wait for next month. Is that so? Watching Chu Ming's slightly disappointed expression, she danced drunkenly and spoke coquettishly, smiling playfully. However, considering the qualifications of a teacher, it is not difficult to help you obtain a quota. It can even give you the privilege of being an elder and allowing you to go to places where the disciples of the library cannot enter. Really, Chu Ming's expression suddenly became excited. There is nothing happier than having sex for free. If there is, it's having sex twice for free. But you have to do me a favor. TSK. Sure enough, it still doesn't work. Chu Ming smacked his lips and immediately clasped his fists with a serious expression on his face. Master, I will definitely do my best. Then help me, my teacher. Give me a massage. Listening to the seductive words, Chu Ming's mind suddenly shook. Massage? What kind of massage method is it? Is it okay to have 40.8 hands in Edo? I have been feeling stiff lately, could you help me press down on my shoulder? Wu Zui Rao slowly lay on the jade platform, her delicate cheeks resting on her right arm, with a lazy expression. She squinted her beautiful eyes and looked at the unmoved Chu Ming. Why, Ming'er, are you unwilling? It's not that I don't want to. It's just that my disciple doesn't know how to massage. Chu Ming scratched his cheek slightly awkwardly, feeling inwardly resentful. Do you feel stiff when you have transformed into a divine realm? Don't joke, okay? There are designated pitfalls here, and I always feel that my master has some strange thoughts about me. It's better to avoid getting involved in some trouble as soon as I travel through. Let's just hold on. It's okay, I'll teach you as a teacher. Ah, this. Why, still unwilling. Dancing drunkenly, the corners of her mouth drooped, and her eyes showed a strong sadness. I once rescued you from the hands of thieves, worked hard to pull you up, taught you alchemy, and taught you martial arts. 10 years have passed now, but you are not even satisfied with your small wish to become a teacher. It's sad. What a pity. Looking at the pitiful face like a little woman, Chu Ming's temples bulged vigorously. It is obvious that dancing drunken row is performed to tease oneself and make music. But such a moral kidnapping, I really don't have any reason to refuse. Besides looking at the graceful figure lying on the jade platform not far away, the peach-like posture made Chu Ming's 10 fingers move greatly, and then clenched into a fist. If this were to collide, it would probably be very impressive. Forget it, how bold a person is, and how great a master is. Go ahead. Disciple, obey me. Chu Ming watched with his eyes, nose, and heart, and quickly restrained his mind to come to the jade terrace. In an instant, a rich spiritual energy transformed into colorful light enveloped him, and suddenly he carried the spiritual power within his body to automatically move around the sky. Be good, this is a good thing. Looking at the jade platform surrounded by hollowed-out phoenixes, Chu Ming was stunned for a long time before suddenly realizing that the peaches under the red dress trembled slightly, as if inviting someone to savor them carefully. What are you waiting for? Come on. Listening to Wu Zui Rao's delicate and girlish demeanor, Chu Ming coughed lightly and covered her bare fragrant shoulders with trembling hands. Hiss, at the moment of contact, Chu Ming took a deep breath, and a delicate sensation like jade grease spread throughout his body from the palm of his hand calmed down. She is your master. The other party can slap you to death with just one slap. Chu Ming's whole body was full of excitement, and after taking several deep breaths, he was able to suppress the heat in his heart. He began to slowly knead Dancing's drunken shoulders, not looking askance. However, because the jade platform was too wide, the far side couldn't reach it and felt a bit uncomfortable, so he could only squeeze it with his fingers. Ming'er, your technique is good. Press your left shoulder a little more. Listening to a slightly coquettish moan, Chu Ming licked his dry lips and was about to switch to the left when he was suddenly stopped by Wu Zui Rao. This is too troublesome. She turned her face to look at Chu Ming, her red lips parted, and her misty eyes revealed a seductive charm that captivated her soul. You come up and help me massage. End of this chapter. Chapter 6. Exquisite Skills. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 6 Exquisite Skills. Come up. Chu Ming looked at the 100 butterflies' red robe and dress covering the entire table, his Adam's apple rolling up and down uncontrollably. Where are we going? Although this jade platform is quite large, it is more than enough to accommodate 2 people. But if you kneel down and sit down, you have to stick tightly to one side, so there will definitely be some touch during the massage. This is too exciting, isn't it? Chu Ming gave a slightly restrained dry laugh. Master, I'll just press it this way. What's the difference between pressing and not pressing like this? Wu Zui lifted his chin slightly and gave Chu Ming a white look. His jade hand gently brushed against the beautiful curve of his back, and a blush inexplicably flew up his cheeks. I don't mind even being a teacher. What do you mind? Come on up. Of course I mind. Chu Ming's mouth twitched slightly unnaturally. Do you know how much harm this action can cause to a young man with strong blood? Besides, it's not on one side yet, but asking me to step onto it. Who can withstand this? Faced with the problem, Chu Ming decided to think twice before taking action. Deep reflection, contemplation, black silk, master, please forgive me for offending you. Chu Ming watched with his eyes, nose, and heart, his face not turning red and his breath not panting. He propped himself up against the edge of the jade platform and slowly sat down calmly. At the moment of contact it is evident that both parties trembled slightly due to nervousness. Seeing that something bad was about to happen, Chu Ming quickly took a deep breath and used his spiritual power to slow down the speed of blood flow. Just a massage. Just massaging, call out. Biting his teeth tightly, Chu Ming's nimble fingers swam gently on his dancing and delicate shoulders and neck. There is a slight coolness in the jade, which is the cherry blossom. What perfect skin! Chu Ming was once again amazed in his heart. Previously, as a social animal, he faced immense pressure every day, so he would occasionally approach massage parlors with a learning attitude to seek advice. Although the techniques may not be as professional as professionals, they are at least more than enough to serve others. Faced with Chu Ming's filial massage, Wu Zui's cheeks became increasingly rosy, her eyelashes trembled lightly, and she couldn't help but whisper in praise, mixed with a hint of heavy breathing. Ming'er is great. As a teacher, I didn't hurt you in vain. Thank you for your praise, master. Chu Ming chuckled and began to use his hands vigorously after seeing Wu Zui Rao slowly adapt. Ah! At this moment, a bone-chilling low moan suddenly rang out in the quiet hall, instantly making Chu Ming's whole body goosebumps burst out, and he inwardly exclaimed that it was not good. It's broken. Hiss. Ignoring the pleasure of feeling the soaring spiritual cover, Chu Ming quickly wanted to get up, but suddenly was caught by Wu Zui Rao, his smile slightly playful. Humph, you want to escape. Her face showed two blushes, and her misty eyes were like a pool of spring water, sparkling and moving. Her delicate red lips opened and closed, constantly spitting out damp and hot breaths. Continuing, I think Ming'er's massage technique is very professional. Have you learned it from anywhere? Disciples are self-taught without a teacher. While Chu Ming was dealing with it, the corners of his mouth couldn't help but twitch slightly. Keep hammering. This is the main hall. If anyone sees it, master. Suddenly, a cold voice with strong doubts broke the silence of the main hall. Chu Ming suddenly felt a thump in his heart, then turned his head and met the slightly surprised eyes of Anmushi, dressed in a green lotus skirt. 1 second, 2 seconds at this moment, time seems to freeze, with only 3 breaths constantly panting. After a while, one of the breaths noticeably intensified, and Anmushi's face instantly caught a blush. She clenched her fists tightly and said shyly and angrily. Chu Ming. What are you doing? Senior sister, calm down, I'm just giving master another massage. Chu Ming quickly jumped off the jade platform and raised his hands high to show respect. Being so excited, he lost his previous charming thoughts and felt more embarrassed and relieved. What did I say? I knew I was going to be discovered. Mushi, you're here. Ming'er's massage technique is great, why don't you lie down and ask him to give you a massage too? Who wants it? Anmushi's plump chest continued to rise and fall, and the blush on her cheeks not only did not dissipate, but also became increasingly bright. Originally, it was because of the incident with Chu Ming that she didn't sleep well last night, but who knew that this scene happened when she greeted her master in the early morning. In the solemn main hall of Yifeng, you unexpectedly, master, please do not tolerate such behavior again in the future. Anmushi stroked her chest and took several deep breaths, then glared fiercely at Chu Ming. And you, pervert. Heaven and earth have a conscience. I, Chu Ming, swear to heaven that I didn't do anything. It was my master who asked me to do it. Chu Ming raised his right hand high and shouted for injustice, while Wu Drunken Rao just covered her mouth and chuckled, seeming to be somewhat afraid of Anmushi. I understand, next time I will find Ming'er to massage in a deserted place. No one can do it in a deserted place. Alright, Mushi, you really don't understand how to enjoy yourself. But then again, why do you have dark circles under your eyes? And Mushi's originally domineering aura suddenly softened, with a panicked expression on her face. She hesitated for a while before pointing at Chu Ming in a serious manner, as she couldn't lie. Last night, my junior brother told me that he had broken through to the 4th level Dan Master. As a senior sister, I felt honored and didn't fall asleep much. Chu Ming said. Dance drunk Rao. Watching the two people's extremely exciting and strange expressions, and Mushi clenched her fists and stamped her feet with some shame. What I said is true. This is indeed something worth celebrating. With a charming smile, she quickly approached Mushi and reached out to gently rub her long hair on the side of her face. Since you are all here, then the Dream Marrow platform will be given to you. Remember not to be infatuated, and if necessary, take a meditation pill. Yes, Master, and Mushi bowed, and immediately the thick red mist surged in front of her. The next second, the drunken dance slowly dissipated with her. Chu Ming breathed a sigh of relief as he looked at the jade platform beside him with a thoughtful expression on his face. According to memory, this treasure is called Dream Marrow Platform, which is a spiritual treasure that can increase cultivation speed. You only need to meditate and use the spiritual power inside the body on it. Like elixirs, magical tools are also divided into 1 to 9 levels, and further up are spiritual treasures, sacred objects, and spiritual essence. The Dream Marrow Platform, on the other hand, is the only spiritual treasure of the Tianyan sect's outer gate. Many mountain peaks wanted to borrow this item from Wuzui Rao, but she mercilessly refused. The reason is simply that the Dream Marrow Platform has a side effect, which is that it can easily make people indulge in the dream of erosion, unwilling to wake up, and thus become demonic, causing spiritual power to riot in their bodies. And Chu Ming knew that this may be the result of its incomplete evolution. Due to the high quality of Qing Woman Marrow, damaged, it cannot be simulated. This is the light curtain that suddenly appeared in front of Chu Ming just now while helping Wuzui Rao massage. From this point of view, it is obvious that the Dream Marrow Platform is not only a spiritual treasure, but it is very likely to be a broken divine essence object. End of this chapter. Chapter 7. Senior Sister's Transmission of Merit. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 7 Senior Sister's Transmission of Merit. No, perhaps a spiritual treasure made from a part of the divine essence is also possible. Chu Ming squinted his eyes and couldn't help but fall into contemplation. However, there are two things that can be confirmed. Firstly, my identity as a master is extraordinary. After all, with the addition of the inner sect and the inner sect, there are not many spiritual treasures in the Tianyan sect, and most of them are artifacts of 9th grade or below. If you think this way, her power to transform into a divine realm may also be somewhat false. On the path of cultivating immortality, there are 9 layers of heaven and 9 realms that belong to one. Practice Qi, build foundation, build pills, Yuan Ing, transform spirit, return to void, combine, Mahayana, and crossing calamity. Each realm has 9 levels and ultimately belongs to the true immortal. If it's just about transforming the divine realm, it's not easy to have a spiritual treasure amidst so many greedy gazes. The second point is that simulating the system yourself may have limitations due to the quality of the items. Perhaps it's just that the system doesn't want me to know too much, so as not to cause a fatal accident. If I think about it this way, it really... I cry to death. Just as Chu Ming's thoughts were dissipating, Mushi suddenly approached him and suddenly extended his right hand. Give it back to me. Chu Ming, whose thoughts were interrupted, came to his senses with a puzzled expression. What are you returning? Oh, my socks. Mushi's face flushed with shame, and he gritted his teeth. You should have used it up, give it back to me. Senior sister is really frugal. Chu Ming chuckled and joked. Do I still plan to return the senior sister I used? You're shameless. Mushi was so angry that he was about to pull out his sword, his full chest constantly undulating. but then he thought about it again. He's right. Just thinking about Enmushi made her feel unwell all over. She closed her eyes and forced herself to endure the restlessness in her heart. She took several deep breaths before quickly walking towards the Dream Marrow platform with a soft hum. Seeing that Chu Ming had not followed, she paused slightly and turned her gaze coldly, saying, "For the sake of you giving me an ice heart pill, I won't argue with you this time. Let's practice together to avoid wasting time." Really, Chu Ming couldn't help but be surprised. He thought that due to last night's incident, Enmushi would hate him. The result seems to be just a dead and proud woman. If it were in the past, the attribute of being proud and delicate might have been quite popular, but now it has retired from the mainstream environment. However, one exciting thing is that if you conquer Aojiao and smooth out your pride, all that's left is Jiao. As soon as Chu Ming thought of Enmushi, who had a cold personality, curling up in his arms and singing coquettishly, flipping through her path, he couldn't help but feel a wave of unease. "What are you thinking? Come up now." Enmushi's calm voice brought Chu Ming back to her senses, and she immediately sat cross-legged on the jade platform, with her hands imprinted on the dantian. Subsequently, the cold breath kept surging around him, and along with the spiritual power in the main hall, it began to condense into a vortex centered around the jade platform. Chu Ming's eyes were slightly cold upon seeing this, and he felt envious. "Senior sister, can you teach me the inner diameter of Tianyan?" The Tianyan inner canon is a practice passed down by the Tianyan sect. It doesn't need to look at the attributes and qualifications of the spiritual root, and everyone can learn it. It not only improves cultivation speed, but also has the function of prolonging life year by year. But according to the regulations of Tianyan sect, only disciples of intermediate spiritual roots can practice this technique. Otherwise, if discovered, they will be recovered by the people in the law enforcement hall. After all, it's useless for you to learn the low-level spiritual roots. It's not embarrassing enough to go out. Previously, Chu Ming was unable to learn due to insufficient talent, which resulted in slow progress in cultivation. He could only focus on alchemy through his expertise in divine soul aggregation. Now that our spiritual roots have improved, we naturally need to learn more. There are more ways and means. Do you want to learn the Tianyan Neijing? Enmushi suddenly opened his eyes and looked at Chu Ming sitting across from him with a serious expression, his expression unusually indifferent. "You are not unaware of the regulations of the Tianyan sect, and lower-grade spiritual roots are not allowed to learn the Tianyan inner canon. But I am a mid-range spiritual root." Chu Ming smiled slightly and immediately took out a test symbol to stick on his wrist. The next second, it turned into a blazing green flame, and the constantly surging flames made Enmushi's eyes widen. "Middle grade with spirit root. Why did you suddenly improve?" "I ate a natural treasure and accidentally improved it." Chu Ming chuckled and attempted to deceive Enmushi, but this not only did not dispel her concerns, but also made her even more puzzled. Although there are indeed heavenly and earthly treasures that can enhance the quality of spiritual roots, can you afford them as a poor alchemist? I always feel like my junior brother suddenly changed a lot overnight. In the past, he was humble and gentle, not good at words. He stayed in the alchemy room every day to refine pills, and except for a glance when greeting his master, he couldn't even see anyone in his daily life. It turned out through a conversation last night that he was actually a hidden pervert who liked his stockings. Not only that, but even talent has made rapid progress. Breaking through to the 4th level Dan Master, not only has it improved its spiritual roots, but it also has a naturally charming body. Enmushi couldn't figure it out for a moment, but he didn't have too much suspicion. After all, everyone had their own secrets they didn't want to know, so he thought for a moment and nodded. "Okay, I'll teach you." Duke Yu said that Chu Ming was his junior apprentice, and it was reasonable to teach him the Tianyan inner canon. Personally speaking, he belongs to the same line as himself as a grasshopper, and we have to work together to solve the problem of natural physical attractiveness, so enhancing our strength is not a bad thing. After making up her mind, Anmushi didn't say much anymore. She lightly tapped the golden bell on her left wrist with her right hand, and her two thin long protective hands fell onto the hem of her skirt. Hold your palms together later, and I will guide you through the Zhou Tian of the Tianyan inner canon a few times. Once you become familiar with it, you can practice it on your own every day. Looking at Anmushi's small arms and jade hands covered in ice blue, Chu Ming suddenly felt a bit uncomfortable. Although I had known for a long time that my senior sister rejected men from thousands of miles away, I didn't expect to be unable to even stick when passing martial arts. This kind of cleanliness obsession is a bit too much, isn't it? Senior sister, what you're doing is a bit heartbreaking for junior brother. Chu Ming covered his chest with a sorrowful expression on his face, while Anmushi just gave him a cold glance, and then his cheeks turned slightly red. It's not as you think. You know I have a naturally charming body, and once I come into contact with men, it's easy to get into trouble. What else can happen here? I was fine just now after being like my master. Can you still get pregnant by shaking your hand? Chu Ming pursed his lips, then let out a light sigh and clasped his hands with Anmushi's 10 fingers. What are you doing? Anmushi suddenly withdrew her hands like a frightened bird, blushing with embarrassment, which really puzzled Chu Ming. Isn't it a handshake? It's palm to palm. Anmushi lightly pursed her red lips and glared at Chu Ming with embarrassment and anger, then took the initiative to extend her hands and press them tightly against his palm. In an instant, a cold chill condensed between the two. Chu Ming quickly closed his eyes and followed Anmushi's guidance with his spiritual power to move the heavens in a strange but extremely comfortable way, dividing qi into 5 small whirlpools that rotate separately. Can you still practice qi like this? Chu Ming couldn't help but be surprised, and at this moment, the familiar light curtain suddenly appeared in his mind. Do you want to simulate the ice silk hand guard? End of this chapter. Chapter 8, Junior Brother, Help Me Quickly. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 8, Junior Brother, Help Me Quickly. Simulate. Chu Ming felt a surge in his heart, operating his spiritual power all around the world while silently feeling the delicate touch of Anmushi's hands. Soft and boneless, soft and silky smooth. Unfortunately, there are gloves as a barrier. Why don't we just use simulation to make it disappear? Yes, after a low murmur in Chu Ming's heart, a large amount of information suddenly surged in his mind, just like before. Since you were born as the ice silk guard, you have always had a gentle and virtuous wife. The left hand you two, childhood sweethearts, have been together since arriving at Angua Market. They usually stay happily together, lying together in the inconspicuous corner of the booth sunbathing, watching the crowd rush and enjoying themselves. You thought your daily life would pass quietly, but since being bought by Anmushi that day, your world has suddenly collapsed. Although we will still be together on a regular basis, most of the time you and your wife can only be separated by being carried on your hands. You were extremely disappointed in your heart, but with the gentle encouragement of your wife, you slowly emerged from the haze and your heart suddenly became clear. A brief farewell is just for the sake of a better reunion. You firmly believe in this. However, a week later, due to an enemy surprise attack, Anmushi, who was seriously injured, was saved by Chu Ming, a disciple of the Tianyan sect who was training outside on the way to escape. Anmushi asked Chu Ming to take Yu and Zhuozhua to hold her, because her naturally beautiful body had already erupted. At this moment, once her skin was touched by a man, it would immediately be on the edge of spring beauty, so, you watched as your wife was slowly worn by Chu Ming on her rough and heavy left hand, your eyes cracking and your heart filled with resentment. But her eyes remained gentle, showing a forced smile towards you. However, this is just the beginning of a nightmare. Why don't you call it a simulation system, call it a pervert system? Originally, I just couldn't bear to hurt a girl, so how could such a good thing of sacrificing oneself for others become strange when you talk about it from a different perspective? Chu Ming secretly slandered, pondered for a moment, and then chose the second reward. This simulation item, Ice Silk Hand Protector, has a 50-degree intimacy with Enmushi. The second reward is Lower Level Water Spirit Root, Green. Improve rune-making ability and affinity for water spiritual power. The reward is a bit lacking. Chu Ming chuckled a few times dissatisfied. Only one type, and it's also a green entry. I just don't know what conditions are required for upgrading this entry. Is it possible to summon a divine dragon by gathering all 7? At this moment, a soft murmur in his ear pulled Chu Ming back to reality. Compared to the extremely charming voice of the master, this voice leans more towards uncontrollable gasps, with a tickling sensation like a kitten scratching its heart. Senior sister. Sensing that his hands were suddenly clenched, Chu Ming slowly opened his eyes and his pupils suddenly contracted. In front of him, the handguard worn by Enmushi dissipated after the simulation ended, and he actively clasped his 10 fingers. He was like a cooked shrimp, with his originally fair and tender skin tinged with a strong crimson hue, and some sweat stains on the surface. Why gloves? Enmushi blushed all over her face, her half-closed and beautiful eyes covered in a layer of sparkling mist, filled with a charming and lovable charm. Junior brother, help me quickly. Before Chu Ming could come to his senses, Enmushi cut off the spiritual connection between the two and pounced like an evil tiger descending the mountain. His delicate forearms wrapped around his back neck, bringing warmth through his clothes. This is a natural burst of seduction. Subconsciously holding on to Enmushi, she twisted her hot and delicate body like a loach, causing Chu Ming to feel uneasy, but it was already too late. At this moment, her bright eyes were already filled with peach-red love eroded by the heat, and then she lifted her face to greet her red lips. It's broken. What should I do? Because of last night's incident, Chu Ming was not much influenced by his naturally charming body, and his eyes still maintained a hint of clarity. He hurriedly held on to Enmushi's shoulder, desperately thinking of a solution in his mind. It is obvious that Enmushi has lost her sanity now. If left unchecked, the side effects of her naturally charming body will definitely completely devour her remaining will. But I don't have the means to suppress my naturally seductive outburst. If I want to solve it, I can only use that method. Glancing at Enmushi's delicate and soft red lips, Chu Ming's heart suddenly surged with a hint of heat, and his slightly trembling arms couldn't hold on. Damn it! He fiercely bit the corner of his mouth, causing a splash of blood, awakening his previous calmness and composure with a piercing pain. As a righteous gentleman, I cannot take advantage of someone's danger to do such a thing. Junior brother. I have ice heart pill on my waist. Feed me. At this moment, the intermittent soft and sticky sounds of Enmushi reached Chu Ming's ears, which immediately brightened his eyes. Yeah. Isn't ice heart pill able to suppress innate beauty? Glancing at Enmushi's waist bound by ribbons, Chu Ming only hesitated for a moment before touching it. As a righteous gentleman, taking advantage of someone's danger is something that cannot be done. Unless the situation is urgent. However, after searching for a long time, Chu Ming couldn't find the so-called ice heart pill, and his heart couldn't help feeling anxious. It's not that he has any attachment to the soft waist of Enmushi, but rather that he is not familiar with the clothing of women in this world. The most crucial thing is that it doesn't even have a pocket. Where is it? Enmushi bit her red lips tightly, desperately enduring Chu Wen's hot big hands groping around her waist with the only remaining consciousness. Every time she passed by, it stirred up a trembling restlessness. It's so uncomfortable. Found it. The coldness emanating from his fingertips made Chu Ming's expression extremely excited. He quickly pulled out his right hand, which covered Enmushi's lower abdomen, and took the ice heart pill to deliver to her mouth. Perhaps eager for a long time, like a traveler discovering a water source in the desert, Enmushi quickly opened her red lips and fiercely bit the ice heart pill in Chu Ming's hand with her teeth. Of course, along with his thumb and index finger. Hiss. The momentary stabbing pain made Chu Ming take a deep breath. Just as he was about to pull out his finger, he suddenly felt a hint of dampness and heat coming from his fingertips. Like a baby, Anmushi's cheeks were flushed, her beautiful eyes were shrouded in mist, and her hands tightly grasped Chu Ming's right palm. End of this chapter. Chapter 9. Pooh. Abnormal. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 9. Pooh. Abnormal. The moment the ice heart pill entered the mouth, it transformed into a cold spiritual force that rushed into the stomach, temporarily relieving Anmushi's dryness and heat all over. Looking at her incredibly beautiful face, Chu Ming suddenly felt that being bitten like this seemed to be quite profitable. So he didn't plan to pull out his finger and let Anmushi hold and nibble on it, squinting his eyes with a very enjoyable expression. Is it fun? Suddenly, a cold voice pulled Chu Ming back to reality. Anmushi still bit his finger, but the intoxication in his eyes had already turned cold, and the blush on his cheeks slowly faded away. Chu Ming, how dare you? Senior sister, you misunderstood. Chu Ming quickly pulled out his finger, showing the deep bite marks on it with a bitter expression on his face. This is senior sister, you took the initiative to bite me. What can I do? Then you can't either. Halfway through, Anmushi stopped speaking, and the blush on her cheeks suddenly resurfaced. Although her consciousness became blurred when she was born with a seductive body, when she regained consciousness, the memories of that period would be deeply imprinted in her soul. Surprisingly, I would make a kissing gesture towards him. However, it is obvious that Chu Ming's feeding of Bing Xi and Dan and being bitten on his fingers were not intentional actions, but were just helping him suppress his naturally charming body. But you can't take this opportunity to treat me like a toy, can you? However, due to the girl's shyness, Anmushi didn't feel embarrassed to ask these questions, so she could only give Chu Ming a stern, embarrassed glare. Abnormal. Faced with his senior sister's coquettish insults and her disdainful gaze, Chu Ming suddenly felt a strange thought in his heart. What's going on with this inexplicable sense of comfort? Thank you for your ice heart pill this time. Without it, I'm afraid I would have done some outrageous things to you. Anmushi turned over and stepped down, staring coldly at Chu Ming. But then again, why did my ice silk protector suddenly disappear? Well, maybe you used too much force while guiding me to cultivate the Tianyan inner canon, senior sister, and dissipated it. Chu Ming looked away with some nervousness and quickly changed the topic. Senior sister, is this a bit too serious? It's just that your palms are tightly pressed. So just now I reminded you not to get too close to your master, so as not to make a big mistake. Anmushi held her left arm in her right hand with some fear, and her eyebrows furrowed slightly. Although ice heart pill has a good effect on suppressing natural beauty, every time I suppress it, I always feel like the next time it explodes more seriously. After all, it's not a long-term solution. Upon hearing Chu Ming's light sigh, Anmushi's expression showed a hint of anxiety. Don't you have a way to solve the problem of being naturally attractive? What is it? Yes, there is, but I need to check ancient books to confirm if it is correct or not. Chu Ming's eyes suddenly became much firmer. If it's confirmed, I will definitely inform you as soon as possible, senior sister. After all, you have taught me the Tianyan inner canon. It's just a piece of cake, and Anmushi waved her hand to indicate that she didn't care, and then whispered a reminder. Remember, when practicing the Tianyan inner diameter for the first time, try to complete a week's spiritual power operation within 1 hour. This way, once you become familiar with it, you can accelerate your speed. If you have a good understanding, you can break through to the 4th level of chi refining in a few days. I will teach you some simple magic skills then. Thank you, senior sister. Chu Ming's face showed a grateful expression. He has no intention of informing Anmushi about the fact that he has already refined chi 5 times. After all, her previous behaviors have already aroused her suspicion. If her cultivation speed is so demonic, she may not have to report it to the senior management of Tianyan sect and let those old monsters investigate the details. Before having strength, everything must be kept hidden to avoid attracting malicious spies from others. If there's nothing else, I'll leave first. Anmushi walked towards the entrance of the main hall, and suddenly, as if thinking of something, Lianbu slowly turned around with a hesitant expression. That. Senior sister, what do you say? Watching Chu Ming's honest listening demeanor, Anmushi clenched her skirt tightly with both hands and pinched it for a while before quietly asking. Can you prioritize providing me with the ice heart pill you will refine in the future? You should know that the ice heart pill, a pill that can prevent cultivation from becoming demonic, is very popular. Generally, as long as it appears in the trading hall outside the door, it will be looted and not her turn at all. If a fourth-grade alchemist could provide 1-on-1 support, then there would be no need to worry too much about the sudden outbreak of innate charm in the future. However, considering that Chu Ming was also naturally charming and in extreme need of the ice heart pill, Anmushi blushed slightly with embarrassment. Of course, I will use spirit stones to purchase, but due to the large amount used, the price may be lower than that of the trading hall. Of course you can. Chu Ming agreed without much thought, showing a sunny and cheerful smile. Let's play together in the same sect. Don't let the fat and water flow into outsiders' fields. It would be great if we could help senior sister. Thank you. Regarding Chu Ming's sudden display of kindness, Anmushi clenched her skirt at a loss and asked earnestly, feeling moved. I've sold all the ice heart pills to you, what will you do? I'm easy to handle. Looking at Anmudai's slightly furrowed expression of concern, Chu Ming couldn't help but tease again with a playful attitude. I have the help you have provided me, senior sister. Anmushi was stunned for a while before realizing it, and soon her face turned red again. Her round legs were clamped in shame, and a ripple rippled inexplicably in her calm heart. Chu Ming should be angry for teasing him so much. But why is there a faint touch and joy? I don't have so many stockings for you. Anmushi put aside her shy eyes and stammered, saying that this charming and silly posture was truly beyond Chu Ming's expectations, making the smile on his lips widen a bit. It's okay, I can buy it for senior sister. Just wear it for a few days and give it to me, senior sister. Bah. Abnormal. Anmushi didn't seem to refuse either, just blushed and whispered, turning around and quickly escaping from the main hall. I'm not serious all day long. Looking at the flying figure, Chu Ming smiled and stretched lazily, clenching his fists and feeling the rich spiritual power inside his body. The benefit brought by the entry lower-grade water spirit root, green, is not only the addition of more paths for cultivation, but also the combination of water and wood, which seems to accelerate the speed of the operation of the Tianyan inner cannon. But beginners usually need 1 hour to run a week. Isn't this half hour too fast for themselves? Is it because of the Dream Marrow platform? Or rather, Chu Ming calls out the personal panel. In order to avoid word count, the personal panel will be reviewed in this chapter in the future. Watching the addition of the Tianyan inner cannon, level 2, in the cultivation line, my heart couldn't help but become excited. Is it really second order? Just after learning the Tianyan inner cannon, I broke through to the second level, which is also an extremely rare existence in the inner sect. I, Chu Ming, was able to have such talent thanks entirely to my personal efforts. Quietly folding up the panels, Chu Ming walked outside the hall while calculating his future path. Since the Tianyan inner cannon has been learned, perhaps the direction of cultivation needs to be determined. Although Dan Xiu is also a good path, it only plays an auxiliary role in cultivation, and there is also an unsolvable drawback. Low combat effectiveness. It's quite good in terms of earning money to support the family. But why are you so poor? Chu Ming took out the space bag and found that the spiritual stones left by the original owner were very few, most of which were alchemy materials. He immediately sighed faintly. Forget it, let's refine the pill first. The task for today has not been completed yet. End of this chapter. Chapter 10. The Evolution of Monster Power Pill. Zhenzi Dan. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 10. The Evolution of Monster Power Pill. Zhenzi Dan. For the outer disciples of Tianyan sect, each person has their own tasks every day. Only by completing them on time can they obtain the cultivation resources provided by the sect, learn the sect's martial arts and divine powers, and ensure clothing, food, housing, and transportation. Alchemy, casting tools, raising animals, forming formations, making talismans, farming. Every disciple needs to learn life skills to avoid leaving the sect and returning to the secular world without any skills to support themselves. Of course, there are also helpers, who do not learn anything and focus on cultivation, helping to handle various miscellaneous matters within and outside the sect. These people are usually disciples of the inner sect, and of course, talented outer disciples can also apply to the higher authorities to avoid trivial daily tasks. They only need to go to the affairs hall to pick up and complete the corresponding tasks. And Mushi is one of them. In fact, with her ability to break through the foundation at the age of 18, she had already set the quota for the inner sect, waiting for the next recruitment competition, so that she could enter with a legitimate identity. For Chu Ming, the fourth-rank alchemist could barely obtain the qualification to enter the inner sect, but his identity was slightly lower. As for the daily task of the alchemist, it is to submit a pill that is one level lower than their own grade, with a quality of at least 2 stripes. A red stripe is incomplete, 2 stripes are ordinary, and 3 stripes are perfect. We have achieved great success. In the alchemy room, Chu Ming looked at the 3 third-grade calming pills in his hand, with the 3 lines on the surface emitting a faint blue fluorescence. Jingxin pill is a substitute for Bingxin pill, with the same effect but slightly lower efficacy. With the bonus of Wood Spirit, this once burdensome task for him has now become effortless. Even though the so-called Dan furnace is already an old antique, under the precise control of Chu Ming, only one of the 4 materials in a furnace failed. The rest of the time will be spent researching new things. Put away the tranquility pill, Chu Ming took out a bundle of worn-out sheepskin rolls tied with red ribbons from the space bag. After carefully opening it, he began to carefully examine the faint pen marks on it. Strange Power Pill, 4th grade, effect. Within 1 hour after taking this pill, it significantly improves the firmness and strength attributes of the body, 1.5 times for 1 wrinkle, 3 times for 2 wrinkles, and 5 times for 3 wrinkles. In addition to its effectiveness, it also provides detailed records of the materials and refining methods required for the strange power pill, and even marks the temperature of the entire process. In the end, it even cites some famous alchemy books. What's going on with the posture of writing my graduation thesis? Chu Ming placed the elixir on the wooden table, kneading his slightly sore eyebrows and sighing softly. I really don't understand why I have to spend most of my money to buy such a formula for a 4th-grade pill. Generally, alchemists use public elixirs, and it is rare to purchase a single one from the Holy Dan Hall like this. Not to mention the high price, if the practicality of the pill is not strong, it will be difficult to recover the cost later on, so you can only take it yourself. It is obvious that the strange power pill that can increase strength is one of them. Not to mention the only one in the entire cultivation world, at least a few hundred are equally effective. Forget it, I've bought everything. Let's try making one. Anyway, the materials are just right. Chu Ming lit 3 incense sticks and bowed before turning around to refine pills. Suddenly, the familiar light blue screen in front of him reappeared. Do you want to simulate the monster power Dan Fong? After a moment of hesitation, Chu Ming suddenly became excited. Can you even simulate Dan Fong? Doesn't that mean you can improve it yourself? That's a good relationship. Yes, after Chu Ming eagerly murmured, a large amount of information began to emerge in front of him. You have been hidden in the depths of the book pavilion by your master since you were born, and you never see the light. You know that you are just a pill developed by the master with just a slap in the head, and it has no effect on people with such strength as him. You are unwilling, swear to train your monster power to the extreme, and strive to help your master with some help. The next day, you were abandoned by your master and sold to an alchemy boy named Chu Ming, who accidentally entered the depths of his memory there. From above, you can see various bizarre buildings, smoking carriages at the back, and people dressed strangely. At this moment, you suddenly notice a group of humans dressed similarly to your own world, holding magical tools and forming a circle. In the middle, there was a human who swung his fists and legs with exceptional martial arts skills. Others dared not approach him and even humbly serve him tea and water. Your eyes lit up and you transformed into a human figure trying to imitate him. Suddenly, you realize that pills can not only make people swallow them, but also improve themselves. Subsequently, you apprenticed and learned from that human, year after year. Before your death, he entrusted his name to you, hoping that after your death, you could carry it forward in your own world. Simulation ends, as the Monster Power Pill formula is the host of your personal item. Only reward 1 can be selected, current entries that can be added. Zhenzi, gold. Transforming pills into form, and boasting martial arts skills between heaven and earth. Sleeping trough. Golden legend. Chu Ming was surprised by the ability to simulate golden entries, but couldn't help feeling a little excited inside. Today is really lucky. Immediately, he excitedly added the entry to the Monster Power Pill recipe. Congratulations to the host. The Monster Power Pill formula has successfully evolved into the True Sun Pill formula. Chu Ming widened his eyes and was stunned for a while before he realized. So that's what his meowing, True Sun, means. Be good, you really broaden your horizons. Looking at the prescription with a golden title shining in his hand, Chu Ming lightly tapped his forehead and decided to refine one first. The name is loud. I don't know how powerful it is, although this strange power pill has evolved. Its grade and refining method have hardly changed, except for the need to add a strand of divine soul to the material. What are you doing with this thing? Looking at the green fire ignited by his wooden spiritual power in the alchemy furnace, Chu Ming immediately hesitated. You should know that separating a strand of divine soul can cause significant damage to the spiritual sea of humans. Moreover, isn't it only used when refining one's own life tool? I just want to refine pills. How could I be related to divine souls? After pondering for a long time, Chu Ming let out a light sigh and finally slowly closed his eyes. His consciousness sank into the sea of spirit, enduring the pain in his brain and forcibly separating a strand of divine soul. Although his spiritual strength was much higher than that of an ordinary fourth-grade alchemist under the bonus of the wood spirit and attributes, this process was still particularly painful, leaving him with sweat stains on his forehead. Call out. In the end, Chu Ming threw the twisted silver water ball condensed from his fingertips into the alchemy furnace, wiping the sweat stains on his forehead and letting out a sigh of relief. I hope you don't fail, otherwise it's just a loss of blood. Staring intently at the blue flame in the alchemy furnace, Chu Ming lifted his 100% attention and controlled it, then only heard a click. In his frightened gaze, in an instant, a brilliant flame burst out in front of him. End of this chapter.